So hi guys, how you doing? It's been long I did a big book review, but I thought I should share this because I felt it might help somebody. I hope I am disciplined enough to continue it. So I'm reading this book. Why am I reading it? Because I've got a son who's been on the waiting list for about 5 years for autism and ADHD. Someone might say, okay, but you're a medical doctor, you're a trained pediatrician. Why are you reading? You're supposed to know all this stuff. And like I keep telling my mom, when we were learning about neurodisabilities, it was still called um, Asperger's syndrome, and the Nelson Book of Pediatrics didn't really place a lot of emphasis on it. So coming outside and also having a child who is, being assessed for autism and ADHD, it's something big for me, something huge. It's not something you expect. It's not your dream child, in quote, but you just have to learn how to walk and how to parent such a child. But what I want to share today regarding this book is not about whether it's happy parenting or anything. It's just that it's a conversation about neurodisabilities or neurodiversity that we should always talk about. It should be part of our conversation. Having also been in a situation where supposed family members would say, you born imbecile, you born deaf and dumb, maybe this kind of person is supposed to be our pikin, stuff like that. It gets to you, and it's also very hard given that you are a pediatrician and they expect you to give birth to the perfect baby. So, and then when that child is not following or hitting the milestones that is expected of a child, a lot of conversations start coming up, a lot of stigma. So, being able to fight it, one of the ways I do that is also to read and to develop myself in saying what's new, what's current, and how do I go about it. So that's why this is not my first book. This is maybe like thousands of what I love to hear from parents who are parenting either autistic children. Autism or the autism spectrum is very big and it has so many things inside. So I would say parents who are raising neurodiverse children, I'm always very interested to read or listen to them. How are you doing it and what can I learn from it as I journey along? So what caught my attention was the beginning of the book, which was defining autism. And it started on from, of course, we all know there's still a there's still a conversation that autism is a disease and it needs to be cured, but it is not a disease. It is just that they are neurodiverse. They are not the way we think they should be. So we need to learn to embrace them. So it's not a diagnosis, it's like a discovery that these people are there with us and we give birth to them, we parent them, they are our brothers, they are our sisters, they are our sons, they are our daughters. So for a long time they've classified this as a diagnosis, and it used to be like a disorder that has to do with communication, social interaction, repetitive behavior. I can go on and tell you about that. And just the way they attack, like race, that's how they attack people who are autistic, or I need to get that term right, people living with autism. And one of the things I saw is that they talked about the history. So we have Hans Asperger, who is an Austrian, and there are a lot of conversation about him trying to study autism psychopathy, like the way he studied schizophrenic people. That's how he was studying autistic people, and he had like exceptional rules. He tried to study who they were, how they integrated into society and stuff like that. However, he didn't shame them. He kind of wanted to understand their world. So I guess that's where we have Asperger's views on autism. However, in recent times we are having conversations that he was part of Hitler, and he was doing what they call racial hygiene, and we are not sure whether he used those children as part of his racial hygiene. But anyways, let me not go into that. So from Asperger we went into Leukana. Leukana also was of the idea. He's an Austro-Hungarian in what is now currently Ukraine, and he was observing children who were identified with autism, but he was in Baltimore in Johns Hopkins University. And what he was doing was he was of the opinion that it was, a kind of situation where he would send the children away, take them away from their parents, and they would just institutionalize them. And a lot of people supported that idea. He was part of a theory whereby he said refrigerator mother. He came up with a theory of what they call refrigerator mother, kind of blaming the mothers that they did not have genuine maternal warmth towards their children. So that's why they were best isolated from their children. So, and he always blamed the mothers that it was their fault. So from there we then went to Lorna Wing. Lorna Wing, British psychiatrist, and also worked with Judith Gold, and they identified autism in the sense that she felt refrigerator mother was stupid because she tried all her best to see that children experienced mother warmth. So she concluded that autism was in a spectrum, but that Asperger's syndrome was mainly for those who could not communicate and who had communication delay and no cognitive difficulties. So they kept on changing that, and it moved on and on, where people were like, okay, this is a diagnosis, this is something we need to work about or to talk to about people about. So people started knowing that autism might be common but not anything rare. And then we had in 1998 we had a gastroenterologist called Andrew Wakefield. He was the one who came up and said that there's a sudden rise in autism diagnosis when the vaccine of measles, mumps, and rubella came up. So he concluded that autism is as a result of the vaccine. Recently, I saw some Nigerian doctors saying that vaccines are the things that cause autism, but I didn't say anything. I just kept quiet. But now, reading this book months later, this is something interesting that happened. Wakefield's study was found to be fraudulent. He was paid 435,000 pounds by lawyers acting on behalf of parents who believe that their children may have been harmed by the vaccine. In 2010, he was found guilty of serious professional misconduct and was struck off the medical register. In 2024, there were more reviews of 1.2 million children, and there was no establishment of link. There was no link established between MMR vaccine and autism. So I don't know, that is also something that is still occurring. People are saying that it's because you took the vaccine, that's why your child has autism. I will leave you to judge, knowing that he was paid to say all of those things. Now, they do not know the disaster they have caused with this information. So a lot of people have started thinking for the first time that autism should be recognized as part of human development. That is how God created them, or maybe some circumstances has made them be like that. But it's not a sickness. So now, right now, the American Center for Disease Control and Prevention puts the number of autistic children at 1 in 68. So they are there. They are always present. It's just that we don't tend to see them, or we ignore them, or we tend to call them so many names. So in the 80s and 90s, we've also seen a spike in diagnosis, and We've also seen that there's been a lot of conferences that has been going on. Oh, let's talk about autism. Let's talk about autism. I bet you I've seen that on the internet. In Nigeria now, it's like a craze. Autism. Everybody's talking about it. So yes, there's that spike of diagnosis in quote, and a lot of African-based people in the UK who are also having their children diagnosed. They are also having some sentiments, which I clearly understand. In those conferences that was happening, there was an autistic man who decided that he was going to host a conference whereby autistic people were allowed to speak, and he told them there in his very famous speech. So his name is Jim Sinclair, and he said, "Don't mourn for us. You didn't lose a child to autism. You lost a child because the child you waited for never came into existence. That isn't the fault of the autistic child who does exist, and it shouldn't be our burden. You need and deserve families who can see us and value us for ourselves, not families whose vision for us is obscured by the ghost of children who never lived. Grieve if you must for your own lost dreams, but don't mourn us. We are alive and we are real." So when I read this, I was so excited, and I felt like it's a shout out to a lot of African parents who are grieving. Are supposed to born picking. We be say they do like this. We say by 2 years old, either they talk, either they do all of those things. But that's not the child you're giving birth to. So don't mourn the child you have. Instead, learn to live with that child, love that child, and you have to learn how to parent that child. I can't tell you that the road is been easy, but you will be learning. You go to learn, they go. So for those of you who wake up and start talking about things you don't know because you don't know about it, please don't shame people who have children with autism or anyone in the spectrum. There are lots of neurodiverse people, and I'm hoping that in Nigeria we would still have this conversation continue, whereby instead of calling a child Dundee, Olodorabata, imbecile, Odin, and all sorts of names, even when we claim we do not say those names, please be patient with us who are parenting such children. They are very amazing. And another thing again I want to say is it goes on and on to talk about how things have changed. We are now looking at it as an assessment, a way of life. But the thing is, we tend to focus on the things that the children do not do, whereas we should focus on the beautiful things that they do to highlight their strengths. And I think humans are subjected to looking at the negative side because we want to only see the bad side of a person. So it will take a lot of discipline, consciousness, self-control to always talk about the good side of someone. So I guess that is why we are always talking about the bad side of being autistic. So I will try to have more of this conversation, but again, it's interesting to know how the storyline of autism has gone, where we are. It's still a long journey. We are still giving awareness. A lot of people are still shaming and all, but it is something that's very dear to my heart. And if you're out there, you don't know what to do, please look for good books. There are also bad books, so be very careful. Look for good books to read. Ask questions. If you're in the UK, there's the National Autistic Society. There's Daisy Shane. There are lots of organizations or charity who are supporting parents and children. So yeah, see you.